everybody, Mark from Rams Up here, episode 198, and I'm doing things a little bit differently. Usually what I do is I record my audio for the podcast and I convert it into a video file with a static image, upload that to YouTube, so you get an audio podcast on the pod platforms and on YouTube. And of course, I occasionally create a video. Kind of going backwards this time. I'm creating this video and then I'll use the audio for a podcast. And the reason I'm telling you this, if you are listening on the podcast, on a podcast platform, you may be missing out on a little bit, but I'll try to make sure you're aware of everything I'm talking about on screen here. And I'm referring to my roster locks that I'm going to walk through here in a minute. Before I do that, some Ram news. Let's see, what do we got here? Will Upton's YouTube channel jumping in on the Rams again, worth taking a look. He had his first ever Rams video a few weeks back. I called that out. He has another one out, and I have a feeling, I sense that Will is starting to like some Los Angeles Rams, buying stock in them, thinking they're being undersold and could actually be a team to watch out for this year. So check out his YouTube channel. The Rams signed Sony Michel. Now, a few weeks ago, I thought I mentioned on one of the podcasts, the Rams have to bring in another running back. There's no way they can go into training camp with Cam Akers, Zach Evans, Kyren Williams, and Ronnie Rivers, and that's it. So they add Sony Michel. The only way Sony Michel makes his final roster, I believe, is if Zach Evans really doesn't step up and the Rams are displeased with his performance in one way or another. That would be the only avenue for Sony Michel making this roster, in my opinion. But you need at least 5 running backs in camp, that's for sure. Some Ram ruminations here. Pro Football Focus, they released some record books here. Their highest rated edge defender ever was Robert Quinn with the Rams 2013, and their highest rated interior defensive lineman, Aaron Donald, in 2018. So Rams defensive lineman making some noise here. Man, have the Rams just nailed it along the defensive line for about 50 years, haven't they? What else I got here? Pro Football Focus also calling out Kobe Durant as their breakout star candidate for the Rams, one of the highest rated slot corners last year. And limited number of data points there, relatively speaking, compared to some of the other corners in the league. But nonetheless, when he was out there, he performed really well. Pro Football Focus loving some Kobe Durant. And I wanted to mention, I try to share all these little tidbits I get from other not other insiders. I don't pretend to be one. And I gathered this from Stu Jackson, reporting that Tyon Davis had a really good mini camp, undrafted rookie cornerback, looking really good and having a shot at making this roster maybe. So I wanted to mention that. I was unaware of how well he had been performing. Stu Jackson calling that out. Hey, so let's get to this, my roster locks. And when I say roster locks, I'm going to keep this clean. What I'm saying is these guys, I'd bet my left toe they're going to make this roster. They're not getting cut. Let's put it that way. Now, could they get traded? Who knows? Could they get hurt? I certainly hope not. But if they remain healthy and they don't get traded, I'm not saying anyone's going to get traded, but just qualifying what a roster lock is to me, these guys aren't getting cut. And that's a pretty high bar you need to pass to be a Rams Up roster lock here in late June. But that's what I've tried to do here. So let's take a look at it. Bear with me here. Again, if you're listening audio only, I will keep you caught up with my displays here. Who do I have as my roster locks on offense? I just got 3 position groups I'm going to go through here: quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. And in a minute, we'll talk about the guys that aren't on this list, and I'll tell you why, at least the guys that might surprise you that aren't on this list. I got the 2 quarterbacks, Stafford and Bennett, the 2 running backs, Akers and Williams, and just 4 wide receivers, Kupp, Jefferson, Atwell, and Nakua. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. I think all 8 of these guys are roster locks, but who did I leave off? I left off Brett Rypien, the quarterback. I think it's probably a 50-50 chance the Rams carry 3 quarterbacks. Could Rypien end up on the practice squad? I'm not sure he qualifies, but if he does, he probably would. And I have Ben Skowronek. I've left off Ben Skowronek, and I think he's probably going to be on this roster at 90%, 95% chance, but I just could not call him a roster lock. Remember, they signed DeMarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson, and there's also Lance McCutcheon. It's going to be really competitive for these last 2 spots. I think it'll be 2 more spots, 2 more wide receivers, and Skowronek has to be the favorite to be that 5th or 6th guy, and he probably will. I get it. He almost certainly will, but I cannot call him a roster lock. I'm not betting my left toe on it. And then Zach Evans. And Zach Evans, a 6th-round pick. He's probably going to be on this roster too. But remember, he had some issues in college. He has to overcome them. He has some proving to do on the field and to the coaches. So could I see Zach Evans on the practice squad or cut? I could see that happening. Way early to tell. Like I say, probably going to be on the roster, but not betting my left toe. Who's the next group we have? We got the tight ends and the offensive linemen. By the way, I'm just going through the offense this episode. This is part 1, offense only. Should have said that up front. And I have 2 tight ends, Tyler Higbee and Davis Allen. I left off the other 2 guys, Hunter Long and Bryson Hopkins. Why did I leave them off? Because I think those 2 will be fighting for the 3rd tight end job. I don't think they're carrying 4 tight ends. And I know a lot of Ram fans love Bryson Hopkins, think this is his year, and maybe that's the case. But I think Davis Allen will be on the squad. They're not going to try to sneak him onto the practice squad. Tyler Higbee originally thought the Rams might move on from him. That has not happened. So I'm seeing Tyler Higbee on this 53-man roster, and he's probably one guy that I would be tempted to put on the bubble, but this is a roster lock, and I went with a lock, and he's the one guy that maybe could still cost me my left toe, but I hope not. I love Tyler Higbee. But I think Hopkins and Long, I don't think both of them are on this roster, so I couldn't put either of them on it as roster locks. And then the offensive line, Brian Allen, Alaric Jackson, Coleman Shelton, Joseph Noteboom, Rob Havenstein, Steve Avila, and I have Warren McClendon there. And there are a couple of guys that I was not 100% on in this group. Who did I leave off? Well, I already mentioned the 2 tight ends. And then I have Logan Bruss and Tremaine Ankrum. And yeah, I would certainly hope Logan Bruss steps up and makes this roster, and I would hope Tremaine Ankrum does as well. And I'm probably going to go 95% on both of those, but I'm still, again, this is a roster lock. You have to understand what that means. Is Logan Bruss a roster lock? Maybe, but I didn't roll with that. I said no. And Tremaine Ankrum, I think he's probably very close to being a lock, but it's tough, man. It's really tough. When I call these guys roster locks, I can't do it. So there you have it. And as far as offensive line, there are some other guys that could sneak onto this roster that are not listed here at all. So it's not just a matter of Bruss and Ankrum earning a spot on that roster, competing with each other. There are a couple other guys, AJ or Curry, for example, and the guy out of Youngstown State, is it Mike McAllister? He's been stepping up and looking good. So there could be a surprise run along this offensive line. And I could be wrong on one of these guys I'm calling in locks as well, but I feel pretty good about it. So we'll have to see if we keep my left toe or not. You guys have your receipts. These are my offensive roster locks. And, you know, you throw in the two special teams guys, Ethan Evans and Alex Ward, the long snapper. Those would be my two special teams locks as well. Kicker, I'm not calling our last kicker as a lock, far from it at this point. There you have it, my part one offensive roster locks for the 2023 Los Angeles Rams. How many guys did I have here? I think it's 17, something like that. But there you have it. We'll see how well I did. We'll come back in a week or two, or an episode or two, and we'll do the defense, the roster locks on the defensive side of the ball. And you can throw some darts at what I come up with there as well, because I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with me on this. But just remember, before you criticize this list, these are locks, not maybes, probablys, almost sure. These are locks. Understand what a roster lock is. And there you have it, out here for now.